Dave Birkett, I believe he's safely parked right now.
No, his son's holding the phone.
Oh, his son's holding the phone. Oh, right. Whatever.
That's
works,
great.
right?
Hey, great use of a son.
How cool is Dave to join us, though?
Awesome.
Freep, Lions Beat, and, of course, author of Detroit Lions and Illustrated Timeline. That's so good.
Is it all right? Do I need to adjust it? Or
No.
Make
it work.
That's
solid,
great. Dave, let's start here. ESPN Analytics have the Lions' chances, should they lose it, 22% chance of making the playoffs. Captain Obvious here to say I can't overstate the importance of this game tomorrow night at Dallas.
Okay, first of all, Sean, I want to tell you you're a pro at filling time because I apologize. Life gets in the way sometimes, but son wasn't feeling good this morning. Had to get him to school. But anyways, yeah. Look, this is. I don't think there is any overstating how important this game is. It is, in a lot of ways, a must-win, and you won't hear players in the locker room say that this week. They take the approach, hey, there's 5 games left, and the NFL's a long season, and this is sort of life in the NFL, but. The reality is, and they would acknowledge there is more urgency. The reality is, if you don't win this game and you fall behind another team in the playoff chase, you're 2 back of just about everyone right now. You wouldn't have the tiebreaker against the Cowboys. It's going to be a long, long road to get to where you need to go, to reach the postseason. So this is a game that I think if the Lions don't win, you can just about write off the rest of the season. It wouldn't be mathematically eliminated. They'd have to beat the Rams. Maybe they could still back their way in, beat Chicago in Week 18 if the Bears lose a bunch of games, but not where anyone necessarily expected they would be at this point in the season. And guys, I'll say this too, not where people expected they'd be, not necessarily because they're 7-5. Like I was talking to somebody in the organization the other day and they said, I think you had us at like 7-5 right now. But mostly because the Bears are better than people thought. And, the 49ers and the Rams and the Seahawks and all these teams keep winning. And so the Lions have a bunch of teams in front of them too.
It's an ugly 7-5, Dave. It's not the 7-5 we all thought it was. This is a team that you could just look. The eye test tells you they are trending down. Dallas is trending up. The Packers are trending up. The Bears up. I cannot believe that a 15-win Lions team and a 14-win Viking team can miss the playoffs this year. But the injuries, you thought Hutch and all those injuries were bad last year. These injuries that started with Laporta and then, the offensive line and now St. Brown. Who do you got coming back? You wrote about Mahogany. When can we get these guys back, Dave?
Yeah, we'll see on Amon-Ra. He left the door open. Dan Campbell left the door open for him playing this weekend. Look, he wasn't in great shape, obviously, coming out of that game. He hasn't practiced this week. He said he wanted to take it up to game time to see if he could play. I think if there's a way that he can play, he will. I don't know how effective he'll be. Obviously, Laporta is gone for the duration of the year. Blake Freeman's out this week. The Terrion Arnold one, how much does that really hurt? I don't know. He didn't even start last week. The bright side you mentioned Christian Mahogany. He said he's targeting next week. I think that's probably a little premature to be back. But if the Lions can pull out a win here, if they can continue to survive, scratch and claw their way to stay in this playoff hunt, then maybe they will get a little bit of help here down the stretch from him. Shane Zylstra for a tight end could be back in a couple weeks, I guess. So maybe there's a little bit of a life raft down the road.
Dave, it's good to talk to you again. I wanted to ask you because everybody, fans and maybe some of the media included, are trying to point to one specific reason as to why the Lions have looked like this to this point. To me, it's just a calamity of errors going wrong at the same time. But if you had to pick one thing, what is probably the biggest thing that has held this Lions team back this year, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a good one because I don't know that you can pick just one, but I think the reality is that it's kind of what a lot of people feared going into the year, myself included, like the deficiencies that we knew or thought could catch up with them really are what's impacted them. The offensive line hasn't been great. And there's new bodies and injuries and things like that, but the protection there hasn't been up to par always. The lack of pass rush, that's something that shoot, Maz, I know we've been joking about that
Yep.
for a while. And the Lions' inability to get a second edge rusher. Obviously, they made the change at offensive coordinator or play caller at least, but that was the third one, and so maybe that was, when you lose a couple games early on, that's certainly a factor. And so those three things really, the areas that we were most concerned about heading into the year are what's impacting the Lions now.
Dave Birkett kindly joining us, of course, beat writer for the Free Press, author as well, and we certainly want to give him a chance to talk about his book. It sounds like a great Christmas gift, I might add. Dave, you know how things are in this town, okay? If I say something negative about Brad Holmes, that means that now I hate Brad Holmes and I want him gone. And that's not the case. I mean, obviously, I'm very, very happy that Brad Holmes is here. However, when we're passing around some of this blame, I think when you look at some of the moves to kind of put a little money on an injured guy, hoping that a guy comes in with the chip shoulder, betting or with the chip on his shoulder, betting on this, betting on his guys. How much of that kind of comes into his building of this roster in this season?
Oh yeah, look, I think at Brad's press conference will be interesting at the end of the year, because we'll want to hear some answers for how his calculation of what this year was going to be, and what some of these players that he was relying on were going to be, how that might impact how he builds the roster in the future. Because you alluded to like a Marcus Davenport, the Lions, that defensive end spot that we all had talked about being trouble for a while now. They were counting on Marcus Davenport, who had a long history of injury. It popped up again this year. Levi Onwuzurike, who had a long history of injury. It popped up again this year. Josh Paschal, who had a long history of injury. It popped up again this year. And then, to not do anything at the trade deadline. And, you watch the Cowboys that they play this week go and add some really important and impactful players. You watch, it wasn't a trade deadline move, obviously, but the Green Bay Packers take a big swing for it with Micah Parsons. Just different approaches to team building that, may seem to be working out right now, at least for this season. So, yeah, I think, Brad is culpable, but, partly, for what's going on. But I would say, and Sean, I think you feel comfortable saying you feel the same way, like he's still a really good GM overall. He's still done a really good job.
Heck yes. How if you don't say that they're infallible, you must hate them, right? And I think you have to look at it fairly, no doubt.
Exactly.
Maz, go ahead.
Dave, last year's draft, we all loved it when it happened. I'll go over them. Arnold, Rakestraw, Manu, Vaki, and Mahogany. Is that a lost class? I know Mahogany is going to be a starter. Vaki, they're hoping to get things, but we don't see. And I don't even know what Rakestraw looks like. Manu is a project, obviously. Those are third-round picks that he moved up for. And then this year he gets Tesla. Are we going to see more of him? I mean, I'm asking you a lot of things. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you're 100% right. And I am parked, by the way, now, guys. So
All right.
Glad you made it safe.
But no. Multitasking. No, look, absolutely last year's class is, it's look as good as the Lions drafted in 21, 22, and 23. Last in 23, I guess there are questions, but last year's class and maybe even this year's class, or the jury's out, but last year's class is certainly something that I don't want to say could set the franchise back, but it at least was not something would be greasing the skids for them to continue, because Terry Arnold 2 years in now, we haven't seen a whole lot. He hasn't been great on the field, and some of the players that the Lions passed on, I know I get emails about this all the time, right? Well, they traded up, they could have taken Graham Barton, that would have solved their center woes, and so there's always going to be those comparisons. Rakestraw has barely played through 2 seasons. You never know what that's going to end up being. Obviously, Vaki's been, he's dealt with a whole lot of injuries over his career so far. And, the other thing, look, you trade a 3rd-round pick to go up and get Gio, and then you trade essentially 3 third-rounders for Isaac Tesla this year. Like, the cost to acquire those players not contributed much to what this team is, and help yourself as well that I think you have to take into account.
Hey, Dave, before we let you go, want to give everybody an opportunity to hear about Detroit Lions and Illustrated Timeline. Sounds like a good stocking stuffer to me. What do I know? There's your softball. Crush it.
Yeah, we've talked about this book before. It's been out for about a year now, but you're right. I mean, last year, right before I got a lot of feedback from people that said, hey, this is a great gift for my dad, my grandpa, my brother-in-law, whoever it may be. My wife's a huge Lions fan. It completes my man cave. So I hope, people will take a look at it out there. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I'm doing a little presentation at the Brandon Library tonight up in Ortonville, Brandon up there. Right. So if anyone wants to stop out and talk some Lions, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. But I appreciate mentioning it and bringing it up this time of year.
Hey, appreciate you, Dave. I know it wasn't an easy morning. Thank you so much. Continued success. Keep up the great work, and hope you have a great holiday season with your family.
Thanks,
Take
Dave.
care, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, you too, guys. We'll talk to you guys. Yep.
Peace.
All right, Dave Birkett kindly joining us.